Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed podcast. Thank you, Adam, so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Well, today we're going to start with a game specifically for you because I think this will be fun. This game is called Founder Flashbacks. So I want you to think back to the creation of Creative Click, and I want you to tell me a little more about some of your experiences. I know it's kind of hard after so long of thinking back to some things like that, but I just think it'll be fun to go down memory lane. Does that sound fun?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, of course. Okay, cool. Thank you for entertaining me. Okay, so um way back, let's talk about the first moment that you realized that you wanted to start your own agency. Not just work at one or just work in marketing, but actually build something of your own. Like, what was that moment?
Yeah, so the aha moment didn't happen until after I was already doing this. I started, freelancing. Didn't really have the vision to have an agency or that I would ever have people work for me. I was working as a server at a restaurant and started building websites for local nonprofits and music artists and just people I knew, just as a hobby. And I started to realize how powerful it was. And then later on, I actually built a website for. I started an insurance business, and I started to outrank Allstate and Prudential. And I said, "Gee, I don't really like insurance, but I'm really good at this." And, so the light bulb moment happened kind of there. I started freelancing, and it took about 2 years, and I started having, started entertaining, hiring employees, and so kind of started slowly in the beginning. And then at some point I was like, oh, I want to grow this, so not not a typical path.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people have definitely a very fine-tuned vision when going into it, that they're going to create their own agency, but you had your aha moment afterwards of actually already kind of having something in the works. So that's definitely different, but I mean there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's really cool that that was something that you kind of just realized that you were good at something and to just kind of continue to work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really fun. Especially that it's I think it's almost better sometimes that way when it's serendipitous because you're not really I think a lot of people, when they have a very fine-tuned plan in the beginning for their agency, they might be disappointed with what ends up happening when it doesn't go perfectly according to plan. So maybe it's kind of fun to roll with the punches and kind of see where things go, but still have that relative plan of that you want this, and that's the path that you're going down.
Yeah, and also, when I started, I literally had nothing. I was living in just above poverty, and the cool thing about it is that I really forced me to learn how to maximize everything. Now I see we deal with a lot of new business owners at Creative Click, and a lot of them want to go in and spend tons of money in the beginning. And for some businesses you need to. If you're starting a restaurant, you got to get all the things.
Mhm.
But for a service-based business like mine, I think it's smarter to start by proving your proof of concept first. See if you can do it at a $50,000 level with very little. And if you can, just think about what you can do when you actually can invest in it. I've seen a lot of other business owners take that approach, whether the advice was from me or not, and and it works. Because if you can make it work with nothing, just imagine what you can do when you have a team, when you have all the ideal tools at your disposal. And that's kind of where we're at now. Is we've got the budget to have all the cool tools and fancy things, but but we still know how to get it done. We experiment with new technologies, and we can get it done without a lot of those things.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a really great foundation to have because it really is valuable to kind of come from humble beginnings because you understand how to be scrappy and how
Yeah.
things can work without having all of that, all of those resources, so to speak. It's definitely something that that you can accomplish this with very little, and so exactly what you said. Think about how much you can accomplish with so much more than that. And that's like the world is your oyster at that point. But if you feel like you can accomplish it at a certain level, then it's like everything it kind of falls into place after that very well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that is something that is really incredible. There's not a lot of people have like this big budget sometimes that they start with when they start their agency because they plan for it in that way. I think that it's almost better that you had that experience to be able to kind of build upon rather than just kind of I don't want to say throwing money at a problem because there wasn't really a problem, so to speak, but it was kind of just I think that people waste money in a lot of ways because they don't realize how they can do something more strategically. And with that,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we've seen that so many times, and thankfully, but a lot of people listen to me now. So hopefully, I've seen a bunch of them avoid that path.
Well, yeah. So, how did you kind of use that experience and explain it to maybe clients that are looking at things in a different lens than you are?
Well, we see a lot of people starting new businesses, and they just want everything. They want all the tools, all or the fancy office chairs, or whatever those things are. And I'm like, look, like that's not what's going to move the needle for you. You're just going to end up with a lot of debt, and it's going to be really, it's just going to be a lot harder to get where you want to go. It's kind of like the people that have to have like the $500,000 wedding. When it'd probably just be better to put the money towards a house. In my opinion. Um, you know, Again, coming from the background I come from, you have to learn to be scrappy, and but I think also there's a mentality of not wasting. Not wasting. When you're not used to having, you treasure the few resources that you do have, and listen, even if you do have resources, it doesn't mean you should squander them. If you have a head start, keep it.
Yeah, no, I think that it's really important what you said about kind of I love the wedding analogy because I think that a lot of people don't always look at the big picture when they're thinking about things that are kind of like yes, it's always very exciting to get things that are kind of flashy and or like look good on whether you're putting it out there or whatever it may be or people are visiting um, and seeing what you've created and it looks like it gives like this appeal of like I've made it kind of thing. But at the same time, if you're putting resources towards something that is not really beneficial to you, but rather beneficial to the visual of it all, then it really doesn't help you in the long run. Like the big picture is more important.
Yep.
Do you want to have a house in the future or do you want to spend a lot of money on a huge wedding that you might not even remember by the end of it because you were so stressed out from planning it?
Yeah, and I think in relation to business, I think a lot of people want to spend money on things that don't necessarily move the needle, like like specific office furniture or having the best of everything when it really doesn't actually impact. It might impact how you feel, but it doesn't impact like the deliverables that the clients feel. So yeah, it's just an interesting angle I think I have.
Yeah, no, I think that's really valuable. Piggybacking off of that, you are also part of Forbes Agency Council. And since you built this team at your agency, as well as worked across other industries, what is another leadership lesson that you think you've learned from that experience?
Oh, I mean, I think in the beginning, when it was just me, obviously I was doing everything. Um, and I thought that I was doing everything really well. But I realized once I started having really talented employees that not only was I not doing everything well, but they could do it a lot better. And so you learn to delegate. You have to. And I belong to a bunch of different business organizations now, networking groups and chambers of commerce. And I see other younger entrepreneurs going through the same thing where they're scared to let go of those tasks. They think that no one's going to do the accounting better than them. No one's going to, do all the little tasks better than them. But the truth is, if you get good people and you train them and you trust them, and you give them room to grow and do their job, chances are they're going to do it better than you. And that frees you up then to do the things that you're good at, that you want to do, and that you need to do. For me, that's working on growing the business. I love doing the work. I love building websites. I love doing SEO, but I don't always have the time to do those things. It's not in my best interest to always be doing those things. And, the people who, on our team are amazing at doing those things. So, sometimes I can pop in and do a little work on a website or something if I'm feeling artistic, but I don't need to. And it's nice knowing that it's going to get done to the same level or better. And, I don't need to stress about it.
It's true. Did you ever miss doing those kinds of things though? Like, is it something that in the future maybe you'd like to structure things so that you're able to do the stuff that you find fun? Not that maybe your whole job isn't fun, but
yeah. Well, yes. And so with our website, I play a really active role in it. We redesigned it last year. I believe it launched in November, and whole new SEO strategy, skyrocketing, generating more leads than ever. Actually, we're making a push for a nationwide SEO strategy, and it's working. SEO, GEO, the generative engine optimization is huge. People are finding us in ChatGPT from all over the country and even beyond, which it's huge. It's not going away.
It's definitely not going away.
Yeah, it's an exciting new frontier.
Yeah, speaking of that, how has that changed, like the structure of how you work? Like, is there certain tools that you've added to your work that you think has maybe increased output or like made things easier for you guys? Is there anything like any hiccups or bumps that you've experienced had this landscape changing rather rapidly?
Yeah, well, the all the AI SEO stuff is changing really rapidly, and I think the big challenge now is tracking it. And there's a whole bunch of new tools that are coming out all the time, and it can be kind of confusing because for the longest time we had a relatively similar tech stack. SEMrush is one of our big tools that we lean on, and lucky for us, they did come out with some modules for doing just that, for tracking the generative engine answers. But there's so many other things out there now too, and it's our job to stay on top of that, to stay ahead of the curve, to better serve our clients. And there's no sign of slowing down. I think I study more now and research more now than I ever did in college.
I hear that a lot, actually. I think that it's really difficult sometimes because of all these tools coming out to figure out what is actually helpful. And like maybe all of them are in theory helpful, but there's so many things that do the same thing. There's some that do better than others. There's some that aren't like well researched and created for money grabs, which I'm sure there's so many of those. There's too many tech companies that there's no way they're all doing good things.
Oh yeah, and you asked about hiccups. Well, there's one recently where Google, up until about a month or two ago, was allowing all these tools to scrape 10 pages or 100 results. And I think because of all of the AI stuff, because they're afraid of ChatGPT and these other tools scraping their sites, they decreased that to 10. And so it's making it much more expensive for these tools to pull data. So instead of running one query to get 100 results, now they have to pull 10 queries. And so the computational cost of that is so much more. Yeah. And I think that's Google's way of serving it, back to these other tools and say, oh, you can't have lunch for free here, guys. So, but it's actually it's hurting the people like us who are using those tools. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting future in terms to how that all shakes out.
Classic Google, really changing things up for. Yeah. It must be really annoying to have to adjust to something like that. Is there other things in relation to AI that you've had to adjust for that you didn't initially expect?
I mean, I don't think we expected any of it.
That's true.
But I'd say most of it's been positive. I think maybe the one thing is, and I guess that maybe I kind of did expect it, was that output is, everybody's expected to create more. So if a writer used to be able to create 10 articles in a week, now they're needing to create 30 articles in a week just to keep pace with every other writer that's doing the same thing. And now AI is starting to do all kinds of crazy things with animation, and we've been experimenting with that. Actually animated my dog Link. He's like our mascot, and I've been making these animated videos. He talks. We use a bunch of different AI tools to bring that together, and it's I don't think we're gonna rival Pixar anytime soon, but it is pretty cool.
It is really fun. It's fun to experiment with some of the new things as well, because it's just, I love testing the ability of something regardless of, like, just for fun, regardless of whether it's for a purpose or not. It's just kind of cool to check out new innovation. It's very, very intriguing.
Yeah. Oh, that's one thing I love, is just seeing what's possible. And not just with work, but with anything. I think that's one of the coolest thing about the time that we live in, is everything is changing, and there's always new ways to do things, new ways to see things, new viewpoints to take into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of changes, with a lot of things rapidly changing, I think I've seen more bumps in the road with specific services than anything. I don't know if you heard about the Amazon shutdown earlier in last week, I believe. And so if, like, say all of the regular channels in which you focus on one day just aren't working, how do you pivot to that? Just like, we had COVID happen, so really anything can happen. What would it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, COVID's a great story. So, I mean, we had an office, beautiful office in downtown area. We set up like a mini Google type of atmosphere. We had kayaks out back. We would take our clients out paddleboards. If you looked straight ahead, there was a lake. If you looked to the left, there was a community garden. If you looked to the right, there was a park. Across the street, there was restaurants. It was great. And then, my lease happened to be up in April of 2020, and the guy wanted me to sign for a 5-year term. I told him, I said, listen, I can't do that. I'm not comfortable.
Ooh, good move.
Yeah. And so COVID happened in March, and we were able to just walk away. I actually did not sign the paperwork yet to him. I was going to sign it and return it probably like in a week. And, it's one of the few times in life where timing was actually on my side.
Wow.
Because that would have really hurt. And I'm pretty sure he would have held me to it, so.
Oh, that's really rough.
Yeah.
Well,
And, so we went remote, and we never looked back. I was worried, maybe everything's all going to fall apart. But the truth is, everybody worked even harder. It was nice. People who were driving an hour to work each day now had, all that time back in their life. And, there's just so many savings. Being able to run the laundry while you work, it just adds to a quality of life. No wear and tear on the car. It's like, just kind of all adds up to like this big extra, amount of time. It's almost like a bonus. But the truth is, everybody worked better than ever. The teamwork was even stronger than it was before. And so we said, hey, let's never go back. Let's figure out how to make this even more efficient.
Yeah, no, the idea of being remote, I think there's so many people that kind of frown at it because they're worried about, like, work ethic or like going down or whatever it may be, because they can't monitor certain things. But I just think about it as a good worker in an office is still a good worker not in an office. Like,
Absolutely.
if you think they're a good worker in the office and they're a bad worker out of the office, they probably were hiding certain things, and they're probably seeming like a good worker in the office.
Yeah. And it really worked out for so many reasons. Some of our key team members moved during COVID too. So one moved to DC, one moved to North Carolina. Kind of like spread out all over the Eastern Seaboard, and that allowed us to keep them. Honestly, I couldn't imagine a team without them. We've got people coming up on 10-year anniversaries now, and had we stuck to, hey, you have to be in the office, that would have, those people would have left.
Yeah, it is something to really consider for quality of life concerns, especially, well, during COVID, there were so many people that had moved different places for safety concerns and different things like that. And so there was Yeah, it's a very difficult time to sustain a job that was, I mean, like, we weren't in person for most jobs at that time, but if they went back in person, it was really difficult to be able to manage something like that. But going back to, this is a really a good lesson though, because there's an, I don't want another COVID to happen. However, there is, since we know that it's happened, there's the likelihood of something similarly happening and be able to adjust, or just like a very large world event or something like that. It's really good to be able to account and adjust for certain unexpected challenges. But going back to the question that I had mentioned, is if there was a complete, like, I guess, media shutdown, or like for, or search engine shutdown, I'll be more specific. What would be, well, how would you pivot with that?
Oh,
Having,
that's a tough one. I
right?
mean, yeah, that's I don't know that I've thought through. I mean, if Google shut down, let's say, I mean, I guess then, that would just move everything further into the AI world. Um, yeah, that's one of those things you just got to take it as it comes. You really don't know. It's funny, in every month we do the reports for our clients, and of course we include their actual results. But at the end of every report, we include another report that is about the state of SEO or social media. That includes all the algorithm updates, and there's always so many changes, across all the platforms.
Yeah, I watch a lot of I actually go through LinkedIn a lot, and I follow a lot of experts, from meeting them in this podcast and for several other reasons. And I follow a lot of digital marketers and people that specifically work in content marketing, and I just see the amount of social media. I get one every week. I mean, if there's something happening, and it's a list. It's a very
Yeah,
long list of different things
great.
happening. And it's funny because if you're just a user and you don't understand like all of these critical things happening behind the scenes, you don't really realize that they're changing
Yeah,
until they're very obvious at a certain point in time. And you're like, when did this happen?
yeah.
And
As a marketer, you want to be ahead of the curve. You want to be the first one to know.
exactly. And so that's and I guess I'm not the first person to know if I'm reading it on LinkedIn. So I gotta stay ahead even further. Well, switching gears a little bit, because I kind of want to talk a bit about creative, since we haven't really spoken about that yet. Um, you talk about combining creativity and data driven marketing, but I often hear that sometimes it's difficult to find a happy median between both. Sometimes, how do you find a balance regularly with these two things?
Well, I think all of our decisions are rooted in science. We try to get good baseline data, so that we know what we're working with. If it's a new client, that could be a little bit challenging. Sometimes we'll just try to collect some baseline data, run some quick ads or something. But I think the name of the game is to always be testing. If you've got unproven product or service, you want to set up some different landing pages, set up some ads, set up some tests, figure out what's going to move the needle. Maybe some things work with one audience, some things work with another audience, and just keep iterating, keep testing, and keep figuring out what's going to work. And, it's really an ongoing process, because once you figure out what works, that doesn't work forever, and people get bored with that, and you got to figure out what works next. And, so it can be fun, it can be challenging, but it's a combination of, understanding data, understanding the client's business, understanding the creative aspect, really doing deep competitor and customer research, understand what competitors are doing, what the clients or customers need or want. There's so many levels to it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that having evidence that something will work is always important, in regardless of kind of the space in which you're in, because obviously you don't want to crash and burn. But is there like any kind of Do you have maybe an example of a time in which you kind of felt like you had to sacrifice maybe a little bit of one for the other? Like maybe a campaign that you were really excited about and then you tested it and it didn't work, maybe in the way in which you expected it to. Um,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a specific example. I feel like that happens somewhat frequently because we test so much. Um, right now we're working with a client that has manufactured a nutritional supplement, and their branding is beautiful, and everything is just really well done. But it's been interesting trying to tap into. There's probably like 10 different buckets of people, that we're trying to reach, and some are working really well and some aren't. There's people who are looking for vegan protein, and that one seems to be working really well. Um, there's people who are searching for specific issues or solutions to specific issues, gut issues, and those we've been having limited success with those. We're still trying to figure it out. Um, yes, it's always interesting trying to figure out how to reach the widest demographic, reach all the sub markets. Just again, all comes down to testing.
Yeah. Do you, for where creative is concerned with something like that, when you're trying to reach multiple audiences, what do you feel is kind of, and I know this might be generalized slightly, but what do you feel is like the best strategy for going about a specific product or service that is supposed to, for lack of better phrasing, please a very large group of people that are very different in needs and wants?
Set up buyer personas. I think that can be really helpful. Again, it's not flawless, but I do think that can really help. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a pretty short answer, but yeah.
Yeah, I like maybe I should be more specific. So, like, if you were to create maybe an ad campaign that all of these people would see, would you recommend like maybe going more generic with it, or like something like if you couldn't target specific audiences separately and it's something that was very um, generalized for the public, what would your strategy kind of going into it be? Obviously, I know brands, they'll be different per brand, but like in kind of a structure for that.
Yeah, that is really broad. I'll try to bring it a little bit smaller by saying how we manage our Google and social media campaigns is to usually start with a really broad audience, and then as the data comes in, we really start to hone that down and figure out who's converting, and just keep refining that. But yeah, I would say start broad, and you can figure out from there. Usually pretty quick, depending on the budget. If the client is willing to spend enough money, usually at least a couple $100 a day, we can figure out pretty quickly which audiences are going to work.
Mm-hmm. So do you recommend? Yeah. Okay. Wait. This is actually out of curiosity. Do you ever kind of find that a client comes to you saying that this is kind of their vision for what groups they're trying to reach, and then through testing, you kind of realize that maybe some of them aren't what they should be looking at? And how do you kind of talk to them about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we educate. Uh, that happens all the time. I'm trying to think of an example. Um, yeah, I am kind of blanking out. That does happen all the time, though.
Yeah,
Maybe we can come back to that one.
no worries. Yeah, of course. Yeah, but I completely understand. I think that it's sometimes you don't know what you don't know. There's a lot of clients that sometimes go into something thinking that this is the best way we can do this. This is our intended audience, and then you kind of realize that it um, a product or service ends up being more popular with a different group in which they weren't even looking at. And I think I love those. I love reading about campaigns that end up like that because I just think it's fascinating that sometimes putting out a marketing campaign ends up working in an unexpected way and it's still successful.
Yeah.
So kind of being more forward looking, I want to talk about maybe your vision for the future. There's been a lot of changes over the course of having started this agency, and COVID probably made things a lot different. What are you kind of looking at with the rise of AI, with everything changing very rapidly in this industry? Like 5 to 10 years from now, what is something that you specifically want to accomplish? What are some goals that you have, and what are you excited about?
Well, okay, that's a lot of things.
You can touch on all of them.
Yeah, I mean, we are growing rapidly, right? So, we're probably going to add maybe 2 or 4 new team members in the new year. Actually, we're starting to hire for 2 of those roles now. For content and for design. So that'll be exciting. We've really dialed in our hiring process, and we haven't had a bad hire in a long time. I'd say that's one of the worst things one of the most expensive mistakes you can make as a small business is a bad hire. And so we learned that pretty quick. But everybody on our team is awesome, and it'll be really fun when we add 1 or 2 more people. So we got that coming. Really want to do more animation. We're having a ton of fun doing it. Actually, they've quickly, the videos of Link, my dog mascot, he's been it's quickly become some of the most viewed content that we have online.
That's
And
awesome.
actually, I've weaved him into our website. He's like hidden throughout the website. He's on our 404 page. He's in about a dozen places now. So it's kind of like an Easter egg almost.
I love Easter eggs on a website. I just think it's
Yeah,
so fun to have something kind of when people are really paying attention, when you have something like that. But I just think it's so fun. It just adds like a little delight to the day of like going through websites.
that's it. Yeah, right. That's the whole point. Yeah, make it delightful to use. Yeah. What else are we excited for? We've got some employees coming up on a 10-year. We call it a work anniversary. So that's super fun. Some team members celebrating milestones, weddings and babies and other cool stuff. Yeah, I mean, we keep racking up more web design and SEO awards. That's always fun. Our team is just, they're just killing it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, but the goal is just to keep growing, keep serving more small businesses, and having fun while doing it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you really want, and to enjoy it as well is really, really fun. I'm happy that one of your visions for the future is going more into something that you've found really fun recently, because I think that that's something that's really cool. The animation aspect is it's kind of scary when something is a little bit new, but especially when there's tools out there that can help you with it, and get more involved in it, especially with the AI tools that you mentioned. I think that's something that's really great, and a great opportunity to be able to explore different places that maybe we haven't before.
Yeah, I'll have to send you some links to the videos after the meeting.
I would love that. That would be really cool. It always makes me think of any kind of talking dog video. Always makes me think of Air Bud. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I was obsessed with those movies as a kid, so I am constantly thinking about them. But
Nice.
I want to end this on a lovely future note, so I'm going to stop us here. But this was an absolutely very fun podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Thank you. I hope that it was a little brain break in the day to get to go down memory lane. The way that you talk about your team is really admirable. It seems like you're very excited to work with them all the time, and that's really what I love to hear. That enthusiasm is always very well received, and I think that it's incredible what you've been able to build.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you again for joining me today. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'd be nothing without you. Please check out Adam below. And thank you so much for joining us again. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, you too.